Hey guys, it's Libby, and today I'll be talking about a topic that I get asked about a ton, which is how do I become an interpreter? So if you're interested in knowing a bunch of information about that, stay tuned. And yeah. So I just want to start off by saying that I'm currently an ASL interpreting student. So all of my knowledge that I'll be sharing with you comes from either my teachers, like along the way as I've learned about becoming an interpreter, or online with the research that I've done. So yeah, so the baseline requirements for becoming an ASL interpreter is you must be fluent in ASL, duh, and English, duh. But if you are also fluent in any other languages, like you grew up speaking Spanish or French or whatever, that's awesome. Trilingual interpreters make more money, go you. But other than that, as long as you know ASL and English, you're good. Before I get into talking about how to become fluent in ASL, if you are not yet, I want to talk a bit about certification and licensure. So what certification is you take a test, and that test is often, from what I've heard, like part written and part performance based test. Obviously I can't speak for myself, I'm not a certified interpreter, obviously I haven't done it, but certification, yeah, you take that test and then you get a piece of paper that says, hey, I know what I'm doing. And then with that certification, you can often apply for licensure to work. But not all states require licensure, which is a huge problem because that means that anyone can just like log on to Indeed, see a job for an ASL interpreter and think to themselves, hey, I took a few years ASL in high school, I think I'm qualified, I'm fluent, and then apply. And then the hiring person will look and be like, yeah, let's hire that guy, you know? And then you have a bunch of unqualified people out there working as interpreters, which is bad, obviously. So not all states require licensure, which obviously makes it easier on you guys to get a job. But that doesn't mean it's better. Obviously it's better to have like something to measure your qualifiedness, you know? So if you're interested in seeing your state's requirements to become an interpreter, I recommend going onto the RID website, which stands for Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf. I recommend you go on their website, and they've got so much useful information on there, including each state's requirements for becoming an interpreter. So while there are like certification tests within states, there's also a national certification test which was created by the NAD, National Association for the Deaf, or of the Deaf? I don't know. Acronyms. Anyways, there is a national certification process out there. Obviously that is a harder test to take. And currently, last time I heard, which was recently, the national certification like qualifications and how they do things is like in upheaval. Like they're trying to figure it all out again. Like they weren't satisfied with what they had, so they're working on something new. I don't think anything new has come out, or I think I would have heard about it. But yeah, so there is a national certification test out there. It's a lot harder. Most people wouldn't pass it straight out of their interpreting program or whatever. It is something you do maybe a few years in, but yeah. Also, I want to say that being nationally certified does not mean you can work in any state willy-nilly. Like you can't just take a trip to Florida and pick up a few jobs down there, you know? It does still depend on licensure. So if that state does have a licensure law, you need to be licensed in that state to work. If you're not, you can't work there. So just because it's a national certification, it is revered as a better certification, obviously, but it doesn't grant you access to work in every state. You still need to be licensed if that state has licensure laws. Another thing I want to say about certification is often there are different like levels at which you can pass the test. I know that's true for the NAD national certification test. Like there's like a basic level, and then there's a higher level and a higher level. I don't know how many levels. That's not really important. You can look into that if you're interested. But those different levels kind of grant you access per se to work in different places. So working in a courtroom, obviously you need to be like top-notch interpreter. Working in like an ER setting or something is medical interpreting, that's up there too. yeah, so I know a lot of people's goals are to become like a legal interpreter or medical interpreter. Just know you might not be able to do that straight out of your interpreting program. You're probably going to need to work, do other like odd jobs and whatnot, if you want to call it that, until you are able to reach that level of certification that will allow you to work in those specific areas. Moving on from that, I want to talk about how to become fluent in ASL and like how to become an interpreter education-wise. So currently I am in an interpreting program at a college. It is a 4-year program, making it a bachelor's program. There are not very many bachelor's programs out there. Unfortunately, there's just not. There's a decent amount of associate's programs and certificate programs, but those, in my opinion, I just can't imagine how they can prepare you enough to be an interpreter, you know? Like, maybe it can, I don't know, I haven't gone through one of those programs, but I feel like 4-year bachelor programs can prepare you more. Obviously, you're spending more time there, you're gonna be more prepared. Doesn't mean that someone with an associate's degree isn't prepared at all, it just means that you'll be more prepared if you do the bachelor's program. Obviously, that's true for anything. The RID website also has a tool where you can search to see different interpreting programs out there. You can search by like bachelor's versus associates, you wanna see what's in this state, so on. I will link that down below. But yeah, it's a good tool to look and see what might be out there. I do want to say though that it's not completely accurate from my experience. Like, it's got the University of Cincinnati on there, and that's a school close to my home. It says that it's got an interpreting program. It doesn't. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. So I just want to like throw that out there. It's a good tool to see what's out there, but then you should go onto the college's page and like look under their majors and see what they actually offer, because it might not be what you're expecting. Yeah, so the colleges that I looked into when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to study interpreting were Columbia College Chicago, which is where I am now, Kent State University, which is in Northern Ohio, and then Northeastern University, which is in Boston. I'm just going to give a brief like synopsis on those 3 colleges. So Columbia College is obviously in downtown Chicago. It is a private institution, therefore it is expensive, and they don't give out a lot of scholarships because they don't have to. My experience here is not something that I'm going to talk about too much. I will say that I'm transferring, if that tells you anything. I will talk about transferring colleges soon in another video. I'm not going to get into the why, to the where, or anything like that right now, but I will later. What I will say though is that plenty of people love Columbia College. Just because I didn't doesn't mean other people don't. Plenty of people do. However, I will say I'm not the only one who doesn't. I am not the only one trying to transfer right now. So I'll just put that out there. People love it. People don't love it, you know. I'm not the only one who doesn't love it, but I'm not saying everyone doesn't love it, you know. There are plenty of people obviously who go through this program and like it. As far as getting into Columbia, the requirements are not very high. It's pretty easy to get into as far as like ACT scores and GPA and all that. Also, Columbia College is an art school, so if that tells you anything about the types of people who will attend, obviously artists, the artsy types. So yeah, it's got a couple other degrees that aren't really art related, such as sign language interpreting and like early childhood education and like a few other ones here and there, but it's mainly focused around art degrees. Moving on to Kent State University though, I looked into that college mainly because it was still in Ohio, and I didn't want to go too far from home or anything. To get into that college, the standards, not the standards, like the requirements aren't super high like Columbia. They do, however, give out good scholarships. I had 3/4 of my tuition covered by scholarships when I got accepted there, so that was cool, but I turned it down. Why? I don't know. But yeah, so I can't speak about their interpreting program. Obviously, I haven't gone through it and I don't know anyone who is. I do have a friend though who attends Kent State studying something else, and she loves the school, so yeah. The final university I looked into again was Northeastern University in Boston. That school is tough to get into. It is like the below Ivy League level, like the super hard colleges to get into, you know. I don't remember what the scholarship was like. I think they gave me a decent amount of scholarship, but the tuition is so high that it was still insanely expensive. But yeah, so that's a really hard college to get into, and that kind of gives you an idea of what the types of people who will attending will be like. They'll be the smart kids. I did get accepted there. I didn't go there. Like, now that I'm transferring away from Columbia, I just like look at those two schools and I'm like, why didn't I pick one of them? Maybe it would have been better. But yeah, I've also got a friend who attends Northeastern University, and again, not for sign language, but she does love the school. So man, I could have gone to college with like two of my best friends at those two schools, and yet I went here and now I'm transferring. Anyways, not the point of this video. Anyways, the reason I did look into Northeastern University was because it was a challenging school, and I do like to be academically challenged, but I didn't end up going through with it because I didn't want to be that academically challenged. You're fine. So yeah, that's Northeastern. But like I mentioned at the very beginning, if you want to look at the RID's tool for searching up colleges, I highly recommend that if you're interested, because sometimes people ask me, which school should I go to? Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, what are you looking for? What's your budget? Where do you live? How far away from home do you want to go? Like, I don't know. It's not really something that I can speak to, and like I can't really give you that advice. But I will say to consider a few things. One is how long the program has been established. Obviously, a program that's been there longer will be better, for the most part, not like always, but you know, in general, the longer it's been there, the more experience they have, the more problems they've overcome, all of that. Also, you want to look at the area that you're in, because if you are in the middle of nowhere, finding deaf events will be more difficult. That was one thing that I felt about Kent State University. It's kind of just in Kent, Ohio. There's not a whole lot around there, you know, that isn't a drive away. But if you got a car with you on campus, it's not that big a deal, I guess. But so you want to see like where your location is, if you're gonna be surrounded by any deaf community or not, because there's like a bunch of programs out in the middle of like the West, and I mean, there could be deaf communities out there, but I'm just kind of like, how big are they? You know, because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. No offense. But yeah, so I will say though that being here in Chicago, I haven't found as many deaf events as I thought I would. So that's kind of a bummer. Even being in this ginormous city, I'm not finding a whole lot. But obviously, the bigger the area you're in, the more populated the area you're in, the more likely there will be more deaf people there, just like, you know, statistics wise. So yeah, but I mean, as far as tips on picking a college, that's kind of all I got for you. How long the program's been there, where it's located, as far as like, will there be a deaf community, yeah, and then being a 4-year program. Another reason to do a 4-year program is because for a national certification, you need a bachelor's degree. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't even have to be a bachelor's degree in interpreting. I think it can be a bachelor's degree in anything, but why would you get a bachelor's degree in anything else? You know, if your plan is national certification. Again, like their whole, like what their requirements are currently being revised. So maybe that won't be a requirement in the future, but I kind of think it will be. Why would they take that away, you know? So yeah. Another thing about picking a college, look at the curriculum. Almost always when you're looking at a program online, you can see like their 4-year breakdown or whatever of the courses you'll be taking. Look at that, okay? Make sure that you're getting like a deaf culture class or two. Make sure that you're getting obviously a good number of ASL classes. Make sure you're getting interpreter education, because just because you're fluent in a language doesn't mean you know how to best like interpret it, you know, like into another language. Just because you know what they're saying doesn't mean you can spit it back out in another language efficiently and well. So look at what they have to offer, and if they offer like a practicum, a co-op, an internship, anything like that, awesome, because you want real world experience before you get out into the real world. You know, if you just sit in a classroom and practice there forever, that's not quite the same as practicing in a real situation, you know? So look for those things. If you want to compare it to Gallaudet's interpreting program curriculum, like put them side by side as Gallaudet, unless you want to go to Gallaudet, and then like whatever college you're looking at, and like compare them, because obviously I would assume Gallaudet kind of has it figured out. They're the college like that was originally founded for deaf people, so like their interpreting program is probably pretty good. They probably know what you should know, you know. So, you know, if you can't go to Gallaudet, then compare them, you know, just like look at them and be like, wow, this one is missing a ton of stuff that seems important. Maybe it's not the best program, you know. So look at their curriculum. Highly recommend. Make sure that they offer an internship sort of thing, and if they don't have it listed on the like the website, maybe contact whoever is like the chair or the director or whatever, and ask them like, hey, is there ever any like internships or anything like that? And if they say no, you know, just take that into account with your decision. As far as other tips I have for becoming fluent in the language, I'm not fluent yet, but tips I have for you to do that would be to immerse yourself in the deaf community. Obviously, you learn the language best. Just like in natural conversation, you'll pick up all sorts of things and you learn it best from a native user. That's why they say go move to Spain and you'll learn Spanish in 2 months or something, but if you go sit in a classroom, it's gonna take you a lot longer, you know. So immersing yourself is a great way to do that. Attend as many workshops as you can. If they offer them in your area, you can often find like workshops. Attend deaf events, all that, you know. Just take as many resources as you can and use them. I also will say that there's plenty of resources online if you want to look up like ASL stories or like ASL lessons taught by deaf people. You're gonna learn a lot. So there's a lot of that on YouTube. I highly recommend. If you want to know what curriculum my college uses, we use the Signing Naturally curriculum. It's used by a lot of colleges who teach interpreting. So if you want to get started on your own, Signing Naturally, that like workbook series, it's got DVDs, you know, it would be a great place to start for sure. Other than that, you can look and see if there are classes in your area before you get to college. That way you can have sort of like a head start. Often community colleges will offer these, or sometimes like community centers, you know. If there's like a deaf school nearby, they might offer something. I obviously can't speak to your specific area. I don't live there. I don't know. But yeah, and that's about all the tips I've got for you as far as becoming fluent in ASL and becoming an interpreter. Everything else you'll kind of learn in your interpreting program if you decide to go that route. If you've got any more questions, feel free to leave them down below. No promises I can answer them, but I'll try. Check out the resources I'm leaving down below. 2 great websites in general are the RAD website and the NAD website. There's so much information on those websites that if you got a question, answers probably on one of those websites. So yeah, I hope this video has been informative and hope you enjoyed it.